Everyone has overlooked this. Devils made a move at the beginning of this summer for the now and the future. It's a good one. It'll work. There's definitely implications. Let's break it down. Welcome, Devil fans. Glad you're here today. Hope you'll stick around. Hit the subscribe button as we continue to break down the Devils into the off season. So, for a second, I want you to go back one off season. You know where the Devils were at. Just missed the playoffs. Didn't meet expectations. Sold at the trade deadline. That's where they were. That's a spot New Jersey was in after they just won 50 games. Over 110-point season. So, you go back and you looked at what they did. They gave Lindy Ruff a multi-year contract extension. A year later, not even, he's gone. You know, when you don't meet expectations in the NHL, things change quick. Just like any other sports league. You don't meet expectations, it's a fast business, you're out of there. So, Devils were in a position where they were looking for a new head coach. They go with Sheldon Keefe. You look at this prior year where, Tom Fitzgerald, maybe had a more aggressive offseason, wanted to get the team back in the playoffs. He did that. But from his whole standpoint, did they meet expectations? No. 42 wins, 91 points, 20th in the NHL in goal scoring with that roster. That was not meeting expectations. So, when you're Tom Fitzgerald and you go into a press conference after the year ends and you start talking about change, we're going to look different, we're not going to be the same team. Well, you're not going to move off a head coach after just 1 year. You're not going to go and tell ownership, hey, I got it wrong again, I need another head coach. And I'm not saying that they got it wrong. I don't think Sheldon Keefe should be fired. 1 year, you're not going to go ahead and fire your head coach. Clearly, hopefully, you did enough homework where you felt confident enough. Even if it does go wrong year one, you still have faith. You still have confidence. You knew what you were doing when you signed Sheldon Keefe. So you weren't going to go fire Sheldon Keefe. You obviously can't change the whole entire roster. Those type of things can't happen. And why would you? You got the best center duo in the NHL, and in the division. Arguably probably a top 3 center duo in the NHL. You have some pretty nice contracts and guys like Jesper, Bratt, Timo, Meier. So you have a position with, New Jersey where you're not going to blow up the whole entire team. You're not going to move off a head coach after just one season. But there is other ways to find changes. And Tom Fitzgerald found that. He went and you know what? He changed his assistants. You go ahead and you look what Tom Fitzgerald did. They moved off both of their assistant coaches and they brought in 2 more. And one of those coaches, Bradshaw. Now, for a multitude of reasons, Bradshaw really sticks out to me. And he's someone who I'm very excited about and someone who I think that they got really right. You look at what he did as an interim head coach in Philadelphia. Yeah, maybe it didn't go, correctly. Maybe it didn't go very well. I don't know too many coaches who it would have went very well for. Look at what management was doing. For Briere, they really had no sense of direction. It was a team that was kind of spiraling out of control. They had to move off players, long-term players like a Claude Giroux. They didn't really have a goaltending solution whatsoever. So you look at what the position Philadelphia was in. And, Bradshaw maybe didn't have the best tenure as an interim head coach. That's not what he's asking to be in New Jersey. They're not asking him to be a head coach. They're not asking him to do the things that, they asked Sheldon Keefe a year prior. That's not what he's here to do. What he is here to do is to fix the defense. And there's one thing that really stands out when you look at Bradshaw and what combines him to do a good job with this New Jersey team. When you go look at his resume, look where he coached for when he was with St. Louis. The years he was coaching with St. Louis, what type of defenseman did he have? He had a young Kevin Shattenkirk. He had a young Alexander Pietrangelo. What did those 2 defensemen turn into? Kevin Shattenkirk, one of the top offensive defensemen in the NHL. Alexander Pietrangelo, 2 Stanley Cups later, probably a couple top 10 seasons as a defenseman, arguable Hall of Fame defenseman. That's what he turned those defensemen into. That's what he developed them into. He developed them into top of their games at what they do best. Kevin Shattenkirk, I know, didn't work out for New Jersey, didn't work out very well for the New York Rangers either. So I don't think, you're looking so much off that. But when you look at Kevin Shattenkirk in his prime and what he was doing and what he was able to come out on the market as a top defenseman in free agency, I mean, you got to be doing something right. I mean, Alexander Pietrangelo, like I said, top 10 defenseman at points, 2 Stanley Cups, arguably the best player on a Stanley Cup team. When you're doing things like that, from, you know what, in terms of development role, it's pretty good. I mean, if that's not enough for you, go look at what he's doing with Columbus. Zach Werenski just had an 82-point year in 81 games. You know, Bradshaw was there when he was a rookie. Bradshaw was there when, you know, Seth Jones went on to go sign a big 8-year contract with Chicago. I know it didn't work out for Chicago, but he was looked at that type of defenseman. That's how he developed them. He knows how to develop defensemen. He developed them in St. Louis. He developed them in Columbus. He knows how to get the best out of defensemen. And where it relates to New Jersey and New Jersey style of play and the type of team New Jersey wants to be and what they've done in the draft. Simone Nemec, Seamus, Casey, Luke Hughes, all under 22 years old or younger. So when you have these young defensemen who are trying to become, you know what, full-time NHLers or be, you know, obviously productive. I mean, looking at where you drafted them, you want them to be productive NHLers, especially in Luke Hughes and Simone Nemec. Seamus Casey looks like he's going to be that. I mean, I definitely expectations have grown since he was drafted. Maybe when you drafted him, you weren't looking at that. But all of a sudden, expectations are different for a guy like Seamus Casey. You're looking a little bit more into Seamus Casey. But guys like Luke Hughes and Simone Nemec, this is why you bring in a Bradshaw. You bring in a Bradshaw for his resume on what he does well. What does he do well? He develops defensemen. He doesn't need to be a head coach. I know it didn't go well in Philadelphia, but like I said, I don't know too many coaches who would have done very well with that roster, who would have been able to, you know, bring that roster to a playoff spot. They didn't get any goaltending. In New Jersey, you're looking at a top 10 duo. But with New Jersey and what they have, I mean, in terms of defensemen, you look around. Dougie Hamilton, developed. Brenden Dillon, developed. Jonas Siegenthaler, developed. You're not worried about those guys. That's not why you bring in a Bradshaw. You bring in a Bradshaw for players like this. For a young Simone Nemec who struggled to stay in the lineup. For a Seamus Casey who's still learning how to, you know, play the full NHL game. Very skilled, but obviously, you know what, made some turnovers, made some mistakes. Luke Hughes, developing very nicely. Get the most out of him. If Bradshaw comes here and finds a way to get the most out of Simone Nemec and Luke Hughes, it's a win. You know, that is a win. Whatever the Devils do, whatever the Devils' defensive stats are as a whole, if he's able to come here and get the most out of Simone Nemec and Luke Hughes in 1 year and keep developing in the right direction, that's a win. That is a good signing by Tom Fitzgerald. That is what you are looking for because this is your future. This is your future blue line. I mean, obviously, Antoine Siliev eventually, but this is what you're looking at. And these are the type of players who you want to make an impact this year because the Devils will need impact from these players this season. You know, they want to contend. They want to be a contending team. You have to have a contending blue line. You need to get the most. Simone Nemec this year needs to be a full-time NHL player. I mean, you look back, 2022, second overall pick. He needs to be a full-time NHL player. Luke Hughes, gonna sign a new contract. Wants to have a good first year. Seamus Casey, obviously, expectations have risen. He's got to keep that bar high. He's got to keep it there. He's got to continue to develop. You need a coach who knows how to develop, who has a resume of developing top NHL defensemen. Kevin Shattenkirk, Zach Werenski, Alex Pietrangelo, Seth Jones. I mean, these are all defensemen who have found themselves to have very, very nice NHL careers. Defensemen who've been in Norris conversations. Defensemen who've won Stanley Cups. Defensemen who have been part of top defensive blue lines. That's what you want to develop. That's what you want to have in New Jersey. You need to bring in someone who's done it before and hasn't just done it before. He's done it multiple times. I mean, this was a signing for these three players. You know what you have in Brenden Dillon. You know what you have in Dougie Hamilton. You're not looking for that. You're not looking for, an over-complicated defensive system, a defensive mastermind. No, that's why you went and got Jacob Markstrom. That's why you just signed Jake Allen. You can have some deficiencies. What you need is you need to get the most out of your young guys. And that's why Bradshaw is here. Bradshaw, excellent signing. I'm very much so looking forward to seeing what the Devils do defensively because it has to be good. Because you look at Tom Fitzgerald, he drafted some of these guys pretty high. And, maybe picks where you didn't know if it was the right pick. He wants to be right. This needs to work out. I think it's going to work out. I think it'll work out very well. Let me know in the comments. What do you think of Bradshaw? Are you excited about Bradshaw? Let me know down in the comments. And I'll see you guys all really soon.